afternoon. I will call the Planning Commission meeting to order. I'm the chairperson, Mayor Zach Fruink. We'll go around the table, introduce ourselves, and for those that are watching at home, if everyone else can also introduce themselves, please. Go ahead, Tom.
Tom Riom, 4th District Alderman.
Dave Hawks, Planning Commission member.
Adam Tagan, Planning and Economic Development Department.
Kelly Rosecrans, Park and Rec Commission representative to this commission.
Dave Laspa, City Engineer and Planning Commission member.
Fran Aaron, Planning Commission.
Greg Gullickson, Planning Meeting.
John, we're next to the warehouse.
John McCracken.
Tim Reed.
Dave Pryor.
Pete Tarzinski.
John Ruder. Chris with S.C. Swiderski.
Excellent. Thank you all for being here and those that are watching at home. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the report from the July 1st Planning Commission meeting. Commissioners, what are your wishes regarding that report?
We'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
We have a motion and a second to accept the report. Any additions, corrections to that? Changes? Seeing none, moving to a vote. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next item on our agenda is the maps and plats received. Item A is Mike Wolosik, CSM. The applicant is requesting a certified survey map approval for the reconfiguration of 2 lots and the dedication of property for public right-of-way purposes. Subject properties are located on the northeast corner of 19th Avenue South and Gaynor Avenue, parcels 34-04594 and 34-0596 within the city of Wisconsin Rapids. And that is attached. Any discussion on that item?
Just want public access? Is that what he wants?
Adam can speak to.
I went down and looked at it today, and it,
Yeah, no, basically what's happening is the owner of Lot 2, as identified on the CSM, is buying some property from Lot 1. And when we were reviewing it in-house, engineering department noted that 19th Avenue is a 60-foot right-of-way on the official city map, so we're actually the ones requiring that 5-foot dedication so that we're up to the full-size right-of-way on it. So really all the neighbors are doing is swapping some land, and we're taking some land at the same time.
I would make a motion to approve it.
second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Next item, item B under 2 is Timothy Reed Street vacation request. The applicant is requesting to vacate the east 44 feet of Robinson Street. Who would like to speak to the request?
I can give an overview first, if that's
Please.
okay,
Mhm.
and then I'm assuming the applicant will want to speak as well. This has come about, originally the applicants came before the Planning Commission, or I'm sorry, the Zoning Board of Appeals on a different request and to build a garage. And during that process, it was identified that an existing fence is actually located on the city right-of-way. So the homeowners are wishing to keep it in that current location. Robinson Street is a dead-end street that really, I guess, in my opinion, doesn't serve a purpose, but I'm sure Dave may have a different opinion. So it was brought to their attention that they could potentially pursue having a portion of the street vacated so that they would not have to move their fence, and then that property would go back on the tax rolls. I think Dave can cover how much we'd be willing to, or potentially vacate so that we wouldn't affect the city park and the baseball diamond that's at the end of Robinson Street. And then the only other thing I'll note is the 44 feet is referencing actually 44 feet of the paved section of Robinson Street. So the portion that runs alongside the neighbor's property is actually much longer than 44 feet. But I guess most people kind of just assume where the street ends, that's where the right-of-way ends. But the right-of-way actually extends all the way to the railroad to the east.
Okay.
Dave?
Well, typically when we vacate a right-of-way, there's no utilities underneath it. Half of the right-of-way will go to these property owners and half would go to the city. But in this case, the city's ball diamond is built over the, I'm sorry, it's not a very good picture here, but it's built over the right-of-way. So what I'm proposing is just a partial vacation similar to we did to Riverview Hospital. I didn't draw that. You can see the fence on there. It's a dark line right next to that. Copy didn't draw down there, but so it'd be 125 feet by a 15-foot wide section to vacate, a partial vacation, so that the fence would be on their property, and then the city would retain as public right-of-way the rest of the right-of-way so we can get access around that fence at the ball diamond and have our ball diamond still remain on public land.
Are you speaking that the piece that you're talking about, the 15-foot by, what'd you say, 125?
Yeah.
Is any of that paved right now, or any improvements?
No, that's actually in the grass boulevard.
Okay.
There's like a 15 foot of grass and then the paved surface. So it's basically contains their fence and it's just grass.
And from what I understand, this went to the Board of Zoning Appeals, correct? And that request was denied there.
Separate request
separate.
for garage
Sorry.
setback.
Different
And then
request, right?
originally they requested a 10-foot variance, and the Board of Zoning Appeals granted them a 5-foot variance. And they have since pulled the permit to build that garage.
This one shows what area that
And
did one so you could see the fence and then the other one.
So the green area is what you're proposing?
Yeah.
And Adam, how that proposal? What's your take on it, based on the?
On that,
Yeah.
as far as I know, and obviously I'll defer to them on what would be acceptable to them, but that would basically bring their fence into conformance and they wouldn't have to move it. So I believe that was the intent behind the original request. So,
Have you seen this?
And did Jerry Feith weigh in? Was he on? Is he still on? No, he's not on boarding.
no. Jerry's opinion was as long as the city didn't need the property, he was okay with it.
Now, hearing that proposal, what are your thoughts on that piece?
I think whatever works for us, it's been that way for 15 years. We didn't realize 15 years ago when we put the fence up that we were in the right of way. I don't know how that became. I mean, certainly if it was disapproved, we'll move the fence. That's not an issue. We have planted trees on the inside of the fence, and if we had to move the fence, it would put the trees back on city property, and they're young trees, and we just don't want to see them torn down. We've been nursing them for a couple of years, and like I say, it's been uncontested for 15 years, and
So this would serve your purpose? This proposal that he's putting out there?
does that make us
If
legal?
that was approved, yeah, we wouldn't be
Absolutely.
asking you to move the fence. So.
So it puts you back in compliance. It doesn't actually vacate any really of the street. It's more of the boulevard, right away, whatever you want to speak to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still allows the people to get around the end of the diamond if need be.
Oh, yeah. There's people coming.
It's
up
got
the
nothing to do with
tracks
the
all
diamond
time.
at all. I want to look at it today.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got nothing to do with the diamond.
And you get a little bit more taxable property. The little strip.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah, right. I mean, everything we get
Not a lot,
potentially at the end of the day.
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve vacating a strip of land, 15 foot by 125, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay. To the property owners on Robinson Street. I guess Timothy reads the one that made the request. Any further discussion? To me, it sounds like a favorable compromise, I guess, in the situation. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right, thanks for being here. And so they'll be in touch then with the next steps on how that process will.
Enjoy your tax
unfold.
money.
All right. Item C, any other maps or plats received, Adam?
No.
Okay, we'll move into item number 3, a public hearing on Plan 130440, E-Way sales. The applicant is requesting a conditional use to allow a warehouse within the B2 General Commercial District. The subject property is located at 3431 8th Street South, parcel 34-13458, within the city of Wisconsin Rapids. With that, we'll open the public hearing, and I will call for those that wish to speak in opposition first. Actually, we can do it in favor first, and maybe you want to speak about the request. We've got the packet, staff report, and then, assuming, John, you want to speak in favor of your request?
Yeah, I guess what I'm requesting for is more warehouse space in the city of Rapids. Right now, we're currently growing faster than what our facilities hold. And we're looking at putting up a warehouse type setting where I can store all my pond loans. So it'd be a new construction in Rapids. Get 42 by 60, I believe is what we finally put that one on there.
Whole building, correct?
Whole building would be
Still building?
dressed up with a brick front on the front of it on East Street, the back would match our building on Prairie.
And so it wouldn't offer any retail kind of access, that's what you would keep your store for the retail portion,
Right.
but this would be storage.
This be all storage.
And I have to, go ahead, Dave.
I just need the name and address for the record.
Oh, John, go ahead and give your name and address.
Jonathan Ruder, 3511 East Street South. And right now, there sits a kind of a dilapidated house on it. It's nothing to break home about. It's kind of an eyesore. I don't know if any of you guys looked at it, seen it.
I do.
It's pretty rough.
So I have to ask the question, what alternatives have you explored beyond?
I've looked at just about every property in Rapids for sale. I have two, I guess, land contracts that we're in negotiations with right now. But it's more dilapidated buildings in Rapids that need a lot of work, where banks won't finance them, so I'm trying to look at an alternative way to get myself into the building and fair terms for everybody.
Have you considered the revolving loan fund that the city has?
I don't qualify for that, because I'm a financial institution of Wisconsin.
Okay,
I'm actually a bank, hold a banking license.
okay. So we can't loan to another bank, I would imagine.
Right. So it's kind of a really unique situation I'm in.
Unless you were a property owner or holding company or something, and you set up maybe another
Right.
entity.
Which we looked at doing too.
Okay, anything further in favor of the request?
That's about it right now, that's my thoughts.
Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the request? And for the third and final time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the request? All right, we'll move into opposition. Those wishing to speak in opposition to the request? Dave, go ahead and introduce yourself for the record. Dave, our Dave needs your,
Yeah.
Dave Pryor, Quality Plus Printing. I'm not concerned with him putting up a building, if he uses it for warehouse space or whatnot. I'm really concerned of how it looks, because it does affect my property values as well. And I think it has to, conform to my concern is, Jonathan, I don't know if he's your partner, your dad, made the comment to me several times that how you win at business is the lower the overhead, the cheaper you can do it, the better. So that just really concerns me how the building's going to look.
Which right now, I don't know, in the preliminary hearing, there's a bunch of requirements that I wasn't even aware of, shrubs, the windows, the flowers or something. Which, I mean, I plan on dressing up right now. I mean, our building should be addressed too, but that's a side note. That has nothing to do with this.
But, for the growth of his business and stuff, again, I don't want to hamper that, I would
Right.
like, but it's how it looks.
anyone else wishing to speak in
You own the
opposition?
property directly in back of it, is that it?
No.
No.
Next.
Strip mall essentially,
Strip
but
mall.
it's condo.
Oh, I see, okay, you're in the strip mall, okay.
Which is a very unique situation. It's actually one roof, but each one of us owns a part of it.
I
Pays
see,
taxes
okay,
on
yeah.
it. So every wall's kind of shared. It's like a condo.
I'm Pete Darzinski, I'm the owner of Mailboxes and Parcel Depot. I'm on the other end of the building from Jonathan. My only concern is, and it's, again, like, I addressed kind of what Dave had said, as it needs to, look nice for A Street. I don't care what they want to use it for, warehouse, that's great. But I think that ultimately, it should be some sort of retail looking, on A Street. There's, like Jonathan said, there's a lot of buildings on A Street already that aren't in great shape. Why, we don't want to add any more, let's have something that's going to be used for retail. future, resale down the road. You build, strictly a warehouse, what's the saleable of that down the road, But if you make it into more retail looking, it's more attractive potentially to other businesses that want to build along the road, so.
Have you seen the drawings?
Yes.
I mean, it appears to be a
Yeah.
nice looking building.
Yeah.
There's a bigger one here if you guys want to see this. See what we're looking at. Same thing, just a little more detail. It highlights the brick on the front.
You object to any part of that?
Well, I would like to see, again, more retail looking, with the windows, and, something that could be more looking like the building that we have now. I guess that's what I envision. Again, I don't want to hinder Jonathan from expanding, I think his business is growing, that's great, and he needs extra space. The question I have is, do we really want a warehouse on A Street? That's really what it boils down to,
Is this a whole building or what's the?
Whole building construction. We looked at steel construction, we looked at 2x6 construction, we looked at everything. The most economical way right now is a full building construction, but when you get done, you can't even tell it's a full building on the inside, and outside.
Could this be used for retail in the future?
No, that's what the conditional use permit's for right now. Because it would just pretty much be a concrete slab inside there with your lights and heating and cooling, and that's about it. Real basic building with metal tin everywhere, so it's easy to clean.
Could you make it so that a guy could put windows in and that
You
thing?
could, but right now I would want it to be secure, because the purpose of not having windows on the front's not to save money, it's to not have people break in it in the middle of the night. I mean, right now, all my windows are barred. As you guys can see in the police reports, crime's been picking up, so.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of the report? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Move into item 4, the action on Plan 130440 E-Way sales. John and I have had extended conversations about this, over the last year and a half, I would say.
Right.
I mean, really, it's been since
I've been
was 2 years.
exploring it for about 3 years, but
Okay.
finally put it on paper just to see.
Yeah, and I commend you for your kind of ambition and doing some things. Now, I'll reiterate my concerns to the committee, since I haven't spoke to the committee about this. The first one is the functional obsolescence. When this business transitions from your ownership or your use of the building, it becomes functionally obsolete. And I think, we've talked about the former Brockstrom Kicker building, again, functionally obsolete, and it's gonna require demolition unless someone wants to put a car dealership back in there or something similar. So that's first. Second is design and aesthetics. I think, most people can agree. In fact, I get many, many calls about the, again, functionally obsolete building that was R&R transmission, will be R&R transmission again when Ray gets his permits and gets back in the building. Again, functional obsolescence. And if it's going to be used for warehousing, and that's why I asked the question of what other alternatives you explored, because if you're just using it for purely storage, my understanding initially might have been that it would be a kind of a showroom, if you will, for your equipment or for your inventory, that you could almost store the stuff anywhere. And I realize that there's some
Doing that,
security.
it's just a pain, like, you literally have to keep track of what's in what bin and where it's at, and then if guys wanna pick it up right now, I mean, they get pretty sick of waiting around, I mean, they want it right now, 15 minutes, I mean.
And I think, we all have a little bit of responsibility, and I do just by nature of the position of what happens, particularly on A Street. It's highly visible to our visitors and those that are just coming to the area for the first time. Another pole building, and I don't care, the environment isn't the best right now financially for businesses, but frankly, we allow it today, and 10, 15 years from now, somebody looks back and, gosh, why did they make that decision the way they did? And I realize, Adam, based on some major consistency pieces getting in line with kind of your conditions of approval, that Adam did recommend approving it. I just think we're quite a ways away from having a finished product in front of us for consideration, especially if you've been working on it for this long. And I think to bring this to the committee, knowing my feelings on it, I've been frank about it, right? I can't see myself approving it. So that's just my feelings, and I'll open it up to the rest of the commission to make their comments, but I just want to make sure that our conversations were brought here
Right.
for the purposes of this. Commissioners?
The west wall obviously faces A Street.
No, that's gonna face the other house that's right there. What
So the-
faces is the brick front on the front of the
It is,
building.
okay, all right.
The rest is all hidden or it'd be all metal on the side that you can't see from Main Street.
Well, I know that Clary builds a pretty nice building. I've been in a few of them. I appreciate your comments about functional obsolescence. On the other hand, that house that's there is long since obsolete. It would be nice to have that gone. I think this building has to look better than that. In that respect, I would support doing this. I think that down the road, with not a lot of work, you could make that building into something else if you needed to. I don't know how long your business is going to be there. I hope for a while.
We'll be there for quite some time.
And if I'm listening to these two gentlemen, you don't object to the warehouse, you just want it to look nice. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. So in my mind, it comes down to what do we have to do to make it look nice? You're suggesting window space. I hear you don't want windows. What did you say in here? The illusion of windows? How do you do that?
But no, I mean, I'm open to the option. It's
Yeah.
just, I presented the way I would build it.
Well, we've asked people to come back to us in the past with a upgrade or a better idea. Is that unreasonable?
The windows, I mean, most of you guys can all imagine putting windows in there. It's pretty self-explanatory. As far as from that standpoint, it's trying to grasp, so I guess, put a model together where you guys all agree upon the way it looks is what it comes down to, where, I mean, I could do that. If that's what you're requesting.
Well, it seems to me that that's the major objection here, that the building that you're wanting to put up is presentable and something that the city, the community wants to have on A Street.
Right.
But it's a separable property, am I right? I mean, you could separate it from,
It would be separated. We would not attach it to the building. It would,
in the event that that happened and you sold it off, it would be a whole building which maybe would not conform to.
no, it all conforms to the National Building Code.
Yeah, but I mean for commercial use, let's
For
say.
commercial use.
For, you know, open to the public.
Right, I'd probably just keep it if I ever sold out of my one business. I'll be like all the other guys that are holding property on A Street and having garage sales. I've been talking to a lot of those guys lately too that aren't really using their buildings what they're made for. There's a couple of them on A Street right now. But, no, in order to get it back to retail, like Adam and I talked, where you'd have to have larger parking spot, which I think you'd have to have, what is it, 2 cars per 200 square feet or something?
1 per 150 square feet.
So you'd have to have quite a bit of parking in order to make that into a retail building. So I would always have a issue with the parking there.
My only concern is that it is separable. You could separate it from the rest of the building. That's the only concern I got. And if you did, then if somebody wanted to use it for commercial purposes and open to the public, it would not conform.
Right. It's a warehouse. At the end of the day, John comes and goes, it's still a warehouse.
Yeah.
Full building.
That's my only
Wouldn't build a
concern.
freezer, cold storage freezer on A Street, you know, for storing product or whatever.
Now, if it goes to retail, you'd have to put facilities in there.
Yeah, the entire
Water.
building would have to be renovated to be brought up.
Okay.
Although it complies with the National Building Code, which it would have to in order to even be constructed. There are different classifications of occupancy under that code. This would be under a warehouse type land use, so that's why it would be allowed in that location. If it were to transition to a, I think there's retail, there's gathering places like a restaurant, that type of thing. They have a different set of standards, and so it would have to be updated with facilities.
Significant changes would have to be made.
Yeah, the structure, Exterior may be okay, but there's gonna have to be substantial interior work.
But is the whole building affect, is that if it were separable, would that be acceptable for,
Structurally, I believe so. I mean, the structure itself, but again, there are gonna have to be changes made.
And it is separate, it's not going
Yeah.
to be attached.
Correct, yep, it would be separate piece of
Yeah, that's
property,
what-
separate building.
Separate tax bill?
And I would add too, beyond just the building aesthetics, I know we talked a little bit about landscaping. I think if there's a detail that we need to be comfortable with before this gets even to the stage of a shovel being turned, that it needs to be
I guess that's the point I'm
landscaped.
trying to make. We've asked other people to come back to us with more detail.
Mhm.
And perhaps that's the situation that we're at here now. Perhaps these three gentlemen can get together and talk about what will serve his needs and satisfy their interests and come back at the next meeting. And I think this is a good idea. I would love to see that house and even the one next to it gone, but I understand your other concerns. I mean, is that unreasonable?
Well, that's reasonable. I mean, one time I looked at purchasing both properties and actually excavating both houses down and then putting up a separate entity by itself for my shop where I could say, yeah, we're moving right next door, which would be easier than trying to re-explain and get re-established.
You'd have one building, you'd have retail in front, you could have all their storage in the back.
Right?
What's immediately behind the building that you're in now?
Houses? There's one really nice house and then the rest are all kind of so-so. One, well, actually two really nice houses and then another one's kind of so-so, which have all been offered to me to buy, but I could spend $1 million in about 15 minutes around where I'm at right now and have no bank to finance it.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I have I guess, a problem, I guess, even with a dressed-up warehouse. Again, it'd be for what use in the future, if that would come about, and I guess there may be ways around it, but it's not really what, warehousing is not really what the comprehensive plan was, I think, intended for warehousing there. I guess another question I would have would, as your inventory has jumped in leaps and bounds, and you have placed items in other locations, I don't know what or how much, how will it and how soon will that warehouse outgrow the inventory you have or inventory that's coming in?
Well, see, with this new warehouse that I'd like to put up, I'd actually build it to withstand mezzanine, so then I'd actually be doubling my square footage. That'd be phase 2. By that time, if I get that big, then I'd look at buying, which I already have been looking at buying the rest of the property that I'm in. But right now, like my other two partners in the building have other, I guess, objectives to do first before they're obligated to sell to me, from what I've been told. They just can't all of a sudden pick up and leave in a year. It's gonna take time, and how much time do I have before other people start moving into town? I don't know. I mean, every day there's more and more people coming into town. Resale shops and right now, I mean, I'm the only one that's licensed as a pawn shop in Rapids. There's only one that's licensed on there, which I have a good track record with all law enforcement from just about any county that connects to us, all the way across the states to even Illinois. But the warehousing would help me out quite a bit.
And given the nature of your business, I'm sorry, maybe I had another point to make. You're a destination, right? People come to you.
Right, but then I know where you're going with this. On the flip side of stuff, when you guys have vacationers that come up from Illinois or from wherever, that want to spend money on a rainy Saturday afternoon. I mean, I'm right on A Street, that's where this whole A Street kicks in, helps me out. I mean, and you can't get rid of those sales, those are what help me. That's kind of like the cream of the crop, that helps me establish my income.
Sure.
But yes, I've looked at that Napa and actually put an offer in on it, and.
Yeah, you knew where I was going with that. You were-
Can't go anywhere with that,
Yeah.
we're still about 50,000 apart.
Yikes.
Rostrum Kicker only 750, so there's
How about the, just conversation, how about the Bogart Carl?
too far gone, the building is.
Was it really?
And then it's half sitting on a creek that you can't build on later on that nobody knows about.
Oh, what now?
There's a creek that runs there, that
Oh,
Doc
really?
Blanchard, well, I don't know what the deal is, I just heard old stories from people.
We know.
But I've looked at it, but there's a creek somewhere in there
Wetlands,
that.
don't even.
And there is a creek,
There
it's
is.
a culvert.
There is.
But we- that's all
It's not
everybody
just a
says.
story.
I just,
No, I looked at that too, but that building's really rough. So is the Brosman Kicker building, but all of them need a lot of money stuck into them. And that would just probably make me go bankrupt, and I wouldn't have to worry about building a warehouse.
Takes money to make money. Ask these guys in the front of the room.
well, again, my only concern is it's a separable property, and if you were to sell it off, and I'm sure you're not, don't even have that in mind. But if you did, it would have to then conform to the city of Wisconsin Rapids codes. And is it gonna conform? And that's my question.
No, no, it wouldn't, and the only way I'd ever sell it is if I sold my business as a package deal, so then the next guy moving in, but I'm not looking today, tomorrow, I still got 10 years to go. According to the
Till you
financial-
retired?
Well, not retired, just life change, switch
Alright.
gears.
Okay, okay.
I tried the bar business, which I took a hole in the wall and made it into something. I don't know if you guys seen that, but that took a lot of doing. So I've been moving properties in Rapids, but this one's kind of my livelihood, or is my livelihood, I should say.
Commissioners, thoughts, questions?
I would like to see you come back to us next month with more detail on the exterior and possibly make these two gentlemen happy.
Got
Other
a
than that,
checkbook? No, I'm joking.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said you got a checkbook?
I understand what you guys are talking about, and I think that's what all of us are concerned about to some degree, that this thing look presentable on A Street, now and in the future. If that can be done, then I would support this. But I don't know what the rest of you guys want to do.
Is that your motion?
I will make a motion to hold it over for a month pending more detail on appearance.
We have a
I'd
second?
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion to hold the item over until would be the next planning commission month from now, pending further detail? I think you've heard enough comments from us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, that passes. So I guess get in touch with all of us
I will.
before the next meeting, just to make sure, obviously, a successful request will be in your favor.
And if any of you guys want the tour of the shop to see what I have to put up with right now, I mean, just stop in, take a look, introduce yourself, and be more than happy to give you a tour, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain right now what's going on.
You got a nice shop. You've done nice.
If you guys want to see behind the scenes, how we keep track of stuff and so forth.
I mean, it's not like on TV.
Okay, thank you for being here, gentlemen.
So long, John.
See you guys later.
Item number 5, which was held over, Plan 130462 SC Swiderski LLC. The applicant is requesting site plan approval to allow the construction of two 12-unit apartment buildings and accessory detached garage in the R3 multifamily residential district. The subject property is located at 3421 and 3521 Norton Street, parcel number, one parcel, 34-0975 in the city of Wisconsin Rapids. Got some individuals that are here today who'd like to speak to the request.
Yeah, basically, Chris with SC Swiderski, and you need address also, or my address?
And only for public hearings.
Okay, all right. basically, we have the, as you said, the 212 units, 16,544 square feet per building. Detached garages we have one per unit, and then we also offer some additional garages for tenants that want a separate space. We would have 2-bedroom units, we would have 8 of them, and 3-bedroom units would be 16 in the mix between the 2 buildings. And as far as the rest, I did bring a couple samples just kind of regarding some idea of what we would be doing. We're dressing them up a little bit more than the property we own to the south of this. We'd be putting some brick on the bottom area. These are nicer buildings what we have there now. So we wanted to dress them up, make them a little more like a home. So we'd have the brick. We're looking at on the tops of the building using something, a vinyl product, but using something with a shake look, to mix it up, give some nice character to it, and then a vinyl siding. These are basic colors of somewhat. This is a color that we have used before. This is something we're just kind of looking at. But yeah, I mean, basic colors. I know it wasn't required for colors, but we wanted to bring some samples in to kind of see what you thought. It would be very similar to that tones.
All right.
If anyone needs big plans, we do have big plans here.
Adam, you've got your staff report attached. Is there anything you wanted to speak to in there at all? You recommended approval?
Recommended approval. Really the only carryover from the discussions that were had during the rezoning. At that time, the neighbors were pushing for the reduction in the number of the units to the 2 12-unit buildings versus the 3 that were originally looked at. And the second was screening or fencing to try and contain the residents so that they weren't trespassing. So the fencing, as discussed, was provided. It runs from garage to garage. So basically the garages act as the end pieces and the fence would act as the back. And then obviously there are only 2 12-unit buildings. It does meet all zoning requirements, setbacks, that type of thing. The 224 or the 24 total units is well below what is allowed on a property of this size. So from a zoning perspective, there were no issues.
Do you want to speak to your presence? Any questions?
Yeah, on the first plan, didn't you have the garages running east and west along the north property line, and then you were gonna run the fences in between the buildings?
Not that I am
And they've always
aware.
been turned this
Yes,
way?
they would, they would be turned. There wouldn't have been room to run them. We would have had to expand so long on the property, we would have ended up using all the property. So no, they were running like they are now, they were basically running north and south.
Right.
They're running north and south, and then it comes pretty close to the back property line.
Okay.
I don't know if we have a larger set of,
That's right, I just wanna, so you're
Correct.
gonna run a fence from here?
and it would actually go to the property line is what we were talking about with, when we had the last, meeting with and the other neighbor was here.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about running on the property line,
Mm-hmm.
right on the property line and being able
That's
to
fine.
use a little
That's
bit of their
yours.
space on that side so that, we could at least get on that side to maintain the fence.
Yeah, well, if you wanna go on the property line, however,
Right.
that little bit doesn't matter to us. So, does this fence extend all the way down to here?
It does not. It
Okay,
stops
that's where
here
that's
at
where we
this
had our
point here.
issue last time.
Correct.
Okay. And it stops here then?
Correct.
Show me that, please.
Did you want it to go down?
This, well, that's what I was requesting last time, was get a fence from here down to here and stop the headlights from going into the neighbors'
This is all
backyards.
wooded now, correct?
But that's gonna be clear. And I didn't wanna, I
won't
just
be-
want clear. This is gonna be cleared,
That will
right?
not be cleared.
Oh, it's not gonna be?
No, that will not be cleared.
Okay.
We're gonna clear, basically, well, and this is actually, okay, looks like,
I was gonna say, the clearing line would come just to the west side of
Okay. So it looks like we've got, even from that plan you have there, there's a little larger pond here, detention pond. But we would maintain, we would stop our clearing line basically in here, so
Okay.
there would be nothing there.
And this is actually the end of your property line?
Correct.
Or is it-
That's the
okay,
property
that
line.
comes up
That would
behind
be
the boatman?
correct,
All
yes.
All right. And okay, so there wouldn't be a fence down your yard.
Right.
Pond
all
that
the way
they're
down
talking
there.
about is the surface.
Originally, I
water.
had thought this area was gonna be cleared out.
No, we want to leave as much of that as possible. There's no
Mhm.
reason for us to clear it, and why not leave it,
Okay.
it's a good cover for everybody, I think. So,
Right.
yeah, we don't want to, we're not going to just remove it and clear it. We're going to leave the trees up there, basically to the project limits like you're seeing
Okay,
here.
and we're still, everybody's still in agreement that this will never be developed then,
Correct.
under your ownership?
Well, I believe it was, it would have to go to a planning commission, but that was the agreement on this piece of property, is that we would not be able to, I'm assuming, either anybody comes in, you're gonna say, well, that was agreed that we
Right.
weren't supposed to.
Right, and that will be in the permit, Mr. Mayor, that's all part of it?
Well, Adam would speak to the zoning piece, right? So the zoning had conditions?
The zoning cannot have conditions.
Oh, okay.
By state law, if it's a yes or a no, it's either you get. But based on the discussions that were had, it was their understanding that this commission was only going to approve the 2 development.
Right, so if we came in and said, now we want to put another
Correct.
unit or duplexes there, you're gonna say,
It's on the record that it was.
you're gonna come back and
approved.
say, no, that wasn't
Right.
what was agreed. and
Well, I just
they're
wanna
gonna
make sure
say
it's
it.
on the record.
But the planning commission could rule in that though, right? Am I understanding? They
Yeah.
could say, yeah, we're gonna.
10 years from now, if they came back and applied for it and the commission at that time said, we're okay with it, yes, they could build that. But again,
Do you even put
At
it
the-
on the record that it was discussed?
because again, there's nothing,
Okay,
we can't bind them through a zoning process and we can't bind them through a site plan. We can approve what they're providing to us.
Okay.
I'm not saying it would happen, I'm just saying.
right, all right.
There's the
It's a site
potential
plan
that-
review.
okay, that's what I
But
wanted
it would
to
have
clarify
to go
for
back
everyone.
to
It would
public
have to go
hearing
through-
and everything
Right.
again, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I get all neighbors again.
Exactly.
And I'd be over.
Exactly. And we have no intentions. At this
It
point,
would
as
not
you can
be.
see, we wouldn't have been able to fit 3 in here. At first we were thinking, okay, we could fit 3 in there. We wouldn't even be able to fit 3 in here. It wouldn't happen anyways. At this point, there's not much land left over by the time you get the pond and detention pond.
Yeah, I
so.
see that, and it's a big pond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little EPA requirements.
Yes.
I just wanna make sure, that's the only reason I came down, to make sure
sure.
we're all still on the same
Yep.
page.
Okay, well, I'm glad you did.
So-
Definitely. Hey, any other questions, feel free to call, or while we're building, you got any questions, let us know.
Okay, that's all, I just wanna make sure everything was,
Okay.
I had it all right in my head,
Any other questions, clarifications on the request? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd so move here.
We have a motion and a second to, I'm assuming, approve the request. At this point, we're not in a position to deny, okay? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. We made it through the process, didn't we? Greg, thanks for
gentlemen.
coming.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, last item on the agenda is adjournment. You entertain a motion?
So moved.
We got a motion, is there a second? Second. Second, all in favor?